Welcome to our day one of our Power Up Brand Bootcamp. Julia, take it away.
Hi, everyone. As Melissa said, I'm Julia. I'm half of Define and Design, and we're so excited to have you here today for our day one. We just keep laughing that we forgot to introduce ourselves, so we wanted to make sure that was the first thing we did today. So as I said, I'm Julia, and Melissa and I have been working together for the past year on our company Define and Design, where we are excited to bring you awesome information about branding, social media, and all kinds of other exciting things. But our focus this week is talking about powering up your brand and how you can walk into 2019 feeling strong and confident that you're relaying the messages that you want to share with the people you want to be sharing them with.
Perfect. That sums us up very nicely. So we're super excited to get started today. We're going to start off with the power of storytelling.
So the most important part about your storytelling is identifying your why. That builds the deep strength of foundation for many of your stories, and it is actually the essential foundation of your brand. Storytelling is one of the most effective ways to connect with your audience. We as people have been telling stories since the dawn of time. Once upon a time, two human beings wanted to interact and share a message with each other, and that is the start of storytelling. So it's really as natural to us as breathing, which means that when it comes to how you can communicate with who you are, what you do, what you want to do, telling this communication as a story is a natural method with that people can engage with. So as I just said, the most important part of where your story begins is with why. Your why is your purpose, it's your reason, it's your vision, and your value. It's something that is unique to just you, which is why it's so special. And that way, that's why your why should be the framework of your marketing strategy. Pardon me. In the email we sent out to you yesterday, you received a day one workbook that should have helped you to start identifying your why. So we thought we'd walk through that a bit with you today. I'm just going to pull that up. Okay.
So this is our workbook. Hopefully you did have a chance to look at it, if not work on it. So what we're going to do for the next little while, we're just going to go kind of step by step through the workbook and talk about what's in here, why we've put the questions that we did put in here, and what you can do with them. So as Julia really kind of drove the point home there, that, you know, when we start off with, but when we want to think about the story of who we are in our business, it's really being able to understand why we're doing what we're doing, and we can use that as the foundation to go upwards. It's really that we really want to drive an emotional connection with our audience to get them to engage with us. Okay, so on our page one, so our stories, they're as unique to us essentially as our DNA, right? While we can have the same business as somebody else, nobody else is doing it for the exact same reason. Nobody else does it the exact same way that we're doing it. And that's where we can pull out that why story of the why am I doing this? What's motivating me to do this? All of those pieces. That's where we can focus on that and start using that as that key differentiator for ourselves when we start to build out that story. So the first question that we have in here is, what are you passionate about in relation to your business? I mean, we can talk about what you're passionate about in life too, but that's a whole other webinar. So when we think about what are you passionate about, of course, like as we were making up these questions, of course, we're answering the questions too, just to make sure it all made sense. And when we came to this one, the what are you passionate about, that kind of got me thinking about with Define and Design, what is it that led me in particular here? And over the past couple of years, you know, I've made some changes in my life, in my career, and that was setting up my own career coaching company, which, don't get me wrong, I still love career coaching, but somebody asked me one day, what's the favorite part of your business? And I remember I sat there and I got so excited thinking about, oh, you know what? I love the branding. I love the document creation. I love the the creativity and the building up of promoting my business. And in that moment, I was like, well, if that's the part that I'm the most passionate about, why am I not doing something with that as opposed to just doing career coaching? And that's the kind of thing that I want you to think about with that question, as you know, what are you passionate about? What was it that that kind of, what is it that inspires you and drives you to do what you're doing? So with that question, I would love to throw it out to the audience and see if anybody might have a response to that. And Lynn, I'm going to unmute you and see what you got there for us.
Yeah. I feel that I'm really lucky because I have several different passions. Mm-hmm. And I've been able to bring those passions together. There's like my 3 passions together and combine them into a business. My number 1 passion that has been for years is working with the paranormal and my intuition, all those wonderful gifts. Second passion is art. Mm-hmm. And something that dawned on me actually on Friday, because I went to pick up some stuff from an auction, is jewelry. Mm-hmm. I love jewelry. And I had ordered some pieces from, or bid on some at an auction, some old pieces, and it has actually given me a new direction to add to the market, which incorporates its jewelry to help reawaken and motivate the soul. It brings in my passion of the unknown, the intuitive, of the art, and of the jewelry. And
yeah, that's perfect, right? Fantastic. Being able to take those 3 and put them into one. So if we were to kind of dig just that little bit further and give people some context, what were you doing prior to starting your business, your jewelry business? The main thing.
I would go back before I started doing readings, actually, as a career. I worked in an office. I did office work, and I hated it. I really did, because for me, it was boring. It was doing the same thing day in, day out, and I'm not good with that. And I did try different things, different multi-level marketing. I tried different ones, but it just, I need to be able to move at my pace, not at someone else's. And if I'm moving along really fast, and then I've got a group of people underneath me that are not moving as fast as I am, and that stunts me, and I get limited, that really frustrates me. So this is one of the things that I like about being self-employed, because I can go at my own pace. And if I have times where I need to slow down, I can slow down, but I can just keep going, and I don't have that limit.
Yeah, which is good. So the so prior to setting up jewelry was the reading. So being a psychic, right? So that ability and skill and talent that you've done for years, and transitioning that, taking the passion into that and connecting it with the other pieces as well. So that's a really interesting piece that actually I think a lot of people can probably benefit from doing something like that as they move forward in their career. But again, that's another webinar.
Yeah, but as you know, Melissa, I've been doing the readings now for over 35 years. And in that 35 years, as well as doing the readings, I have tried all these other different things. And I know sometimes you've got frustrated with me. Oh God, here she goes again. For me, that one thing wasn't enough. And I know that there are a lot of other people like that as well. That's where you have to have different things.
Exactly. So it's coming back to that one thing in that passion. And that in itself can be a good focal point on a why. right? So then if we move down and we look at what motivates you in your business, so the reason why this question is in there as well is that you want to be able to understand what is it that's kind of pushing you to drive and succeed, right? You know, sometimes that motivation for why you're pursuing this business, sometimes it can be sometimes it can be money, sometimes it can be family, sometimes it can be the freedom and flexibility, sometimes it can essentially be anything, right? But with that motivation, just having the knowing why you want to continue. So you have the passion of you know, this is what I'm really interested in. The motivation of this is what prompts me to continue doing it, right? So when you start taking all of these pieces and you put them together, then that's where we're starting to see the beginning of a story, right? So if we look at Julia for a second, when we think about what motivates you to continue or to grow in a business, Julia, what would you say?
I don't know. No, just kidding.
She's like, I didn't do the homework, Melissa.
No. No, I have just, the past year has been an insane amount of growth and change and learning for me. And it's just been so refreshing and something I've really enjoyed. So that's one of the things. The amount of time I've been able to spend with my kids, although it's been a lot recently because of Christmas break, that has been just a huge blessing for me as well. So it's making me want to continue in my business because I'm here for them when they need me, and that's just been huge for me as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of the people that we've been talking to lately, that family piece is definitely a big driver and motivator for people too, right? So. So then if we move down the list and we look at what do you enjoy the most in your business, you know, it's like that question that I shared at the beginning when someone asked me, you know, what do you enjoy the most in my business? And it was that creativity, that branding, that piece of creation that really got me going on what I enjoy. So the reason why we want to think about what is it that you enjoy in your business is that when we talk about the things that we love, we always have that more positive tone. We get more excited when we talk about that piece, right? So as we're building out stories about ourselves and our business, we want to figure out what are the things that I want to sound excited about when I'm talking about my business, right? If I reflect back on when we all look back on different positions that we've held in the past, and you think about the stories that you've constructed about the positions that you didn't like, imagine if you took that position that you didn't like and you focused on the good things to talk about that, you'd have a totally different story, right? So instead, when we focus on those pieces that we're enjoying and we can position that, we sound lighter when we talk about it, we get more animated about it. We're happier to dive into conversations with people about it, right? So then next we have, what was your intention when you first decided to build your business? And then that actually is followed up with, has your intention changed? Has your intention changed? You know, as we grow in our business, oftentimes what we start out with, what we think we want to do, we change over to something else. And there can be multiple reasons for that, right? So maybe it's spending that little bit of time to help you figure out, what did I want to do? Where have I ended up? And what's the story of the in-between that got me there? And is that a story that, again, that you can use in the storytelling of your business and the journey that you've gone through? I wonder if Will, if I might call on you for a second, if you don't mind. Actually, before I do, I'll just make sure your mic's working. Would you like to say hi, Will?
Hello.
Hello. So Will.
Sorry, no video.
Oh, that's okay. So Will is one of our clients. Will is a photographer. And just to kind of set the stage a little bit, so Will, he has been doing photography part-time with a large focus in on fashion, and he's looking to transition that to get some weddings lined up, get into branding, headshots, and all of that as well. So when we look at Will, his initial intention when he started going was probably more of the kind of interest based, and now he's at a point where he wants to make that make a real go at it and make it that business. So I'm curious, Will, if you wouldn't mind sharing, when you first kind of thought about getting into photography, what was your intention with what you wanted to do with it?
At the beginning, I think it was just more like just shooting for fun and just making some side income at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it wasn't really a major focus because I was working a full-time job. And so it was just extra money to me at the time.
Okay. And then versus now, so the intention with your business now is that you want this to be your full-time gig. Why do you think that transition has happened for you?
I think it's just I'm a type of person that I was never meant to sit at a desk all day.
Mm-hmm.
I moved to different careers in my life, and it's always been desk jobs or something that was like not my creativity in my mind. And I found this as more of something I really loved, like as I was like shooting as a kid growing up and doing this through high school and a bit of college. And, you know, and then that's basically drove like with my wife supporting me, like transitioning. I really was able to focus on something that I love to do. So, and the one best part is that she's seen me more happier. When I was working at my full-time job, she saw I was not that happy. It was just a job to me. It wasn't anymore like go into work, be happy. It was just go to work, do my stuff, go home.
Yeah.
And now she sees a better, like, positive person that I am now.
Which is fantastic. So when we pick out the pieces of that transitional story, right? I think a really fantastic piece to focus on there is the awareness that you weren't getting the kind of creative outlet and the kind of environment that you wanted with a career. And as you've made those changes, how much it's impacted your personal life. So that the notion that your business not only is something that engages you professionally, but it's such a benefit to your personal life as well, that the people around you notice the difference in you.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool piece to add into the story about yourself.
Cool.
And then from there, we move on to look at what kind of problems do you love solving for your clients. So as I was writing about this one, and I was thinking of people with various businesses, I'm like, well, can everyone really say that they're solving a problem in this aspect? So I think that one might take a little bit of creative thinking when it comes to that particular question. And I think what you want to do with that piece is go back to why would someone be hiring you, and how are you kind of filling a need for them, right? Mm-hmm. So in terms of Lynn, so Lynn being the jewelry artist, creating pieces that are meant to motivate people and offer all of them different kinds of encouragement and clarity in their life, that's in there. The problem that she would be solving with those clients is kind of like releasing blockages for them, releasing like energy blockages. Mm-hmm. Versus if we look at Will being a photographer, the kinds of problems that would be solved as a photographer. This is the one that really stumped me. I'm like, what problem does Will solve as a photographer? But I think what it comes down to is being able to be comfortable with a photographer, right? Because I think that when you have a photographer and you're not comfortable with them doing that photo shoot, that maybe your pictures don't turn out as well or something like that. That's what I came up for that one. But if Will or Lynn, if either of you guys think that I'm incorrect in that kind of thinking with yourselves, then that's absolutely okay. I don't have to be right all the time.
The one thing I thought of like a problem would be like say if it's a startup company, is that I'm solving the problem is helping them build their brand by providing better images for them compared to because people do look at pictures first, like if they go on their website, it's like images speak a lot. So if they have like a poor image of their product or of themselves, it doesn't reflect, it doesn't help.
Yeah, and that's much better than my answer. Awesome. Yeah, no, but that's true, right? That it's that brand building, and it's helping them to get themselves out there visually. So that's pretty cool. So how does your service or product help serve your intended audience? I guess I funneled those together a little bit. And then we'll go to the last question of, how does your business make you feel? So the reason why we're putting that in there is kind of, again, focusing on trying to get you to focus on the positives that's coming out of your business. So hopefully you do have a positive answer to that question. Is it that your business makes you feel inspired? Is it that your business makes you feel joyful? Is it that your business makes you feel overwhelmed? If that's the case, then you need to
reevaluate.
You need to come over to us for a different reason and not branding. But figure out what is that. What's that extra emotion that you can use to evoke with your clients, so that like if we look at someone like Simon Sinek, and he's the big why guy, the tell me your why, or start with why, or whatever. And his why statement is to inspire people to do the things that inspire them, so that together we can change our world, right? So his, we could say that his business probably inspires him, right? So that kind of connects right there. So anyway, you go through all of these questions, and I want you to spend time with them and really digest the questions, digest your responses. Figure out, what do they mean to you? How do they connect together? What really stands out and resonates there for you? And the more you look at them, the more you can see the relationship between your responses and how they really, essentially how they really make that foundation of why you're doing what you're doing. And it's that why that you're going to use as the foundation to build the story that then becomes the framework of a marketing content plan. Any questions on that particular statement?
So it all makes sense, Melissa.
Okay, good. Fantastic. So anyway, so I will, I'll kind of leave it to you guys to create those why statements, because like I said, I want you to spend time with the responses and really digest what you've come up with. But that being said, like, you can drop in our Facebook group there, if you want to come up with some, and if you want to drop some in there and get a little bit of feedback, by all means do it. And then just make sure that you tag either Julia or I, so just to ensure that we see your response there. But there are, on the last page, there are a couple examples of why statements. I would definitely recommend start writing out, just kind of like free flow writing with them. Come up with a bunch of them, and then just start refining and narrowing it down to the one that makes the most sense for you. So that is our workbook.
Yeah. So yeah, we're definitely looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with for tomorrow. Once you feel comfortable and complete with your story, you can use that as your framework for your marketing strategy, as we said before. And that means you are consistently putting out content that aligns with your story, which makes a clear and cohesive message about you and your business, which is so important. Every piece you put out there should ideally have an intention and a value proposition that feeds into your overall business vision. So we're just going to take a quick minute and chat quickly about some other prominent companies and their stories or brands that often people feel a strong connection with, which then helps you understand them and then feel like you trust them. So kind of one of the big ones that we came up with was Oprah as a brand. She's someone that I think a lot of women, especially, I'm not sure how you feel about her, Will, seem to just identify with a bit. So her big story is, she grew up in poverty. She had a horrible upbringing, and she did not want that to be her story. She did not want that to be her life. So all of the decisions she's made since then and the path she has taken has been to exceed from or go far beyond that. And if you look at a lot of her posts and, the stories she's told over the years, a lot of that is, this is what I came from. And, that's why she doesn't want to be that way. So she's been very consistent with her messaging from the get-go, I think, about, empowering women and African-American women especially, and just wanting people to just exceed their expectations. And so that's something I think that's just what she's always stood for. So she does a fantastic job with her branding. And Melissa, you had another example, I think.
Yeah, I did. So, and we think of Oprah. Okay, you're like, well, she's a person. She has a story. She can easily take, the background of who she is and all those pieces to build the story of who she is. Versus, we look at a company. And you're like, well, how can a company do something like that as well, right? And I mean, the majority of us on here, small business owners, entrepreneurs, so we can use pieces from our own life to build that story. But, for an example, to say that it doesn't have to be that way, we're going to look at Google and Moosehead beer. For our non-Canadian viewers, Moosehead beer is amazing Canadian beer. So when we think about Google, sure, the first thing that comes to mind about Google is that they're a search engine. But when we dig a little bit deeper on Google, they want to be everywhere. But why do they want to be everywhere? Because their purpose, their intent is to be able to essentially connect the whole world and to be building up the infrastructure to make the internet available to everybody, right? So their whole thing is essentially that global village and the connectedness and the accessibility. So it's not like, I can't even remember the guy who started up Google, which I was like, I should probably know that. I'm sure it's in my brain somewhere. But I'm like, I'm not focused on the person. I'm focused on, this is Google and this is what they represent. And it's not like Google is up there throwing ads all over the place, because they don't really need to advertise anymore. But, we essentially, when we think of Google, we all know they just want everyone to be connected. They just want the accessibility and the availability of it. But then, we trust Google. I was at a networking night, and I thought it was so hilarious because one of the speakers, she was like, oh yeah, you just went to LinkedIn and you Google someone's name in there. It's like, okay, so Google is just the common word for search now. Okay. Okay, so now we look at Moosehead breweries. I don't know if you actually are familiar with Moosehead breweries, but they are the last major brewery in Canada that is still independently owned by Canadians, and is still run by the original families. So the one thing that I think is pretty cool about Moosehead is that if you are a beer drinker and you like your beer and you know who is who and what does what, it's kind of cool when you think about, well, these are one of the last Canadians, which is pretty awesome. And as a Canadian, I'm like, oh, I just want to support my fellow Canadians doing their Canadian things. So it's that they still really push and promote the whole Canadian aspect, that they're the last largest Canadian brewery owned by Canadians. They're family run. And once you start actually digging a little bit deeper on the story, then you learn it was actually founded by a woman, which was pretty cool. I think that was probably out of the ordinary for its time. It's somewhere in the 1800s, but it's still in there. So they like to go on their story of that independence in Canada, as opposed to just, we're a nice light beer that tastes delicious. But anyway, so those are just examples of how people / businesses can make a story, and we look at what's the core driver in that story. And when you start looking at their marketing content, you start to see that each story just keeps coming back down to that foundation, and typically it's the why. I mean, I don't really know if I know the why of Moosehead at this point, but I know the more pieces. I can mute you, and she's muted herself. Okay, so you can be doing the same thing as well, where your story can help to create that personal connection and that brand loyalty. The decision making that our customers are making are often It's an emotional reaction that they're making. It's not like they're sitting down there and making a logical choice of, okay, I want to work with this person, I'm going to hire that person, I'm going to buy this piece over this piece. It's not a logical step-by-step process that goes on in there. So when we communicate directly to their emotion rather than their logic, we have that higher chance of capturing their attention, keeping their attention, and then converting their attention into a sale. You know, the story, it makes us think and feel in a way that numbers and data and presentations can never make us feel, right? You know, you're not going to sit there and start, you know, saying, well, you know, I've done X number of things this year, I've sold X number of items this year, all of those pieces. That's not what makes someone decide to work with you. Instead, it's that emotional connection that you're going to make. You know, your audience, they're really looking for something that they want to care about, something that they can really grab onto and relate to. So you might as well just give it to them. So that pretty much wraps us up for today. If either of you guys have questions, you're welcome to ask them. Otherwise, we'll pick it up again tomorrow, same time, same channel. We're going to be talking about selling your value. And, you know, today we're looking at why you're doing it. Tomorrow we're looking at, you know, what's that extra something that you have that you can focus on that helps to set you apart from other people. And terrible at closing these off. Julia, do you have anything else to add?
I think that was it. Did neither of you had any questions?
I have a question. I came in a little late into this. Would this be available to view like the beginning?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, once we're done here, so we're recording it. So once we're done, I'm just gonna convert the recording, and you're gonna get an email later on today with a link to watch.
Perfect.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So if that wraps it up, then we will see you again tomorrow, same time.
All right. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
I know.